Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the privacy and the security editions. These are recorded live Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you would like to catch the show live and enjoy in all of the back and forth banter in the live chat as we record these guys. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump on in. Fisher-Price has a new Bluetooth reboot of the preschool play phone that has a privacy flaw. Now, this was interesting. You can't find any information about this. The only place that's selling it is Best Buy. It is a Best Buy exclusive. Somebody said this is an adult toy. It's really hard to tell, and since I couldn't find any specific marketing about it, basically it's this old thing, and I realize many of us are going back into nostalgia, but is anybody really going back into the preschool nostalgia days? I mean, I get going back and watching the favorite movies you had when you were 10, but playing with your favorite toys from when you were 4? Does anybody do that? I'm curious to know. Genuinely, let me know in the comments. But this little Fisher-Price toy, they pushed this out with the lowest possible bidder, and we know because it has the oldest version of Bluetooth connectivity that does not even require any form of security in pairing. So if this thing is on, anybody who sees it with their Bluetooth device can sync to it and then can communicate back and forth with you. So if you happen to get this, you think it's so amazing and cute, and you give it to your little child, the random sicko in the apartment next door can get into the phone very easily and start having conversations with your child. And so, you know, if a Chucky situation happens, first go ahead and check if somebody has hacked into your Fisher-Price phone. This is completely unnecessary. Why is this in privacy other than security? I don't know. Maybe just the fact that it's just a totally insecure thing. And why in the world do you need this type of phone connecting to a phone app on your phone to use this as your actual phone? To my understanding, you can set this up, pair it with your phone, and when you get a call, you can answer it on your Fisher-Price phone. That is the best information I can find. Yeah, I mean, maybe this should be in silver. I don't know where the hell to put this. I put it in privacy because I did. Why not? And will 2022 be the year you finally put a smart ring on it? Basically, this is just a smart ring with a bunch of sensors. They're very small. For people that don't like watches or just want something small, this makes a lot of sense. Of course, something like this means that 100% only can be tied to an app. And my friend was wanting to do something to try and, map some health stuff. But it's hard to find a smartwatch now that doesn't connect to an app. We end up, I use a Garmin that does not require it, but some of the Garmins require you to be linked into an app and some of them don't. So this watch, despite it would have the ability to count your steps and do blood or a pulse ox reading, do your pulse, you couldn't put it on your wrist, push the on button, and just display those basic features. In order to get the thing to work, you had to first pair it to a phone. And on top of that, we're like, well, let's just see if we can get this thing working. Your phone had to have precise GPS location enabled. Your phone had to be connected to the internet, and you had to use the specific Garmin app. So it's like, okay, if I take my phone that does never had a SIM card in it, and I download the app through the Aurora store on a phone without Google Play services, I download the app, let's disconnect it from the internet, let's sync it to the app. No, you need to turn on the internet. Fine, we turn on the internet. No, you need to turn on location services. The watch went back to the store. Screw that. Screw that and screw any of your apps that have to have GPS location and Bluetooth location turned on simultaneously. What, are you asking lunatics to follow you around? I don't think so. And that's exactly what's going to happen with this crap here. There's a bunch of useless nonsense. And on top of that, this isn't just the basics. Like, my watch will tell me what my pulse rate is. I have a 4-hour record of it. I can tell you how many steps I had. Now, if I happen to pair it with a Garmin app, I could get more information that I don't really care about. And of course, all that stuff is permanently linked to Garmin's servers. So yeah, screw that even more. But this one here even goes beyond just here's the data. It tries to actually make assumptions about what you're doing and how this relates. The problem is a lot of what they're doing is actually simply conjecture in the health industry. We don't know if there's a precise point, a precise correlation between the fact that you exercised for 36 minutes and all of a sudden had a really good sleep. Well, that goes to show that every single time you exercise for 30 minutes, you should have a really good sleep. But the first time you exercise for 36 minutes and don't have a really good sleep, it's like, oh, what's going on? This is all based on conjecture, and it's trying to collect the data, utilize AI in the background, and give you information about what it thinks is going to happen based on what it records you doing, and everything, of course, is in their clouds and on their servers. I would avoid this crap. Completely avoid this crap. If you can't connect it to it and put it on, read the data, or best case, just put it on, connect it to an app that doesn't have to connect to the internet, that you can block from connecting to the internet, that you don't have to have an account with, all of that kind of stuff. Hey, you know what? All for it. But all this stuff that has to tie into somebody else's accounts, these are problematic. And that's what you're going to find with this type of stuff here. This one here is a coordination between several of the different companies involved in building smart home tech to establish one standard. Now, the positive of this standard they're trying to do is they're trying to have something that if the internet goes down, like AWS servers go down again, I think this week they had their third outage this month. If they go down, your smart home doesn't stop working. In other words, everything, no matter what the manufacturer is, you might have an Alexa over here, you might have a Nest over here, whatever your devices is, you merge them all together and they all can communicate offline on your local network without pinging the internet. Now, in reality, this is being put together by Apple and Google and Amazon and Samsung, all these guys in these spaces. And what they're still requiring you to be connected to the internet because, of course, you have to be able to have the internet for remote access to your lights. Why? I left the light on. Well, if you're using 4-watt bulbs, it doesn't matter if you leave your light on for 4 hours, okay? Get over it. Oh my God, I gotta check if I turn my coffee pot off. Lord help us. Your coffee pot probably is a smart coffee pot. It knows when you turn it on, it shuts itself off. Thank you. My friend's got a fancy new Keurig. We tried messing with it. It takes 3 times longer to make a stupid cup of coffee than the old one did. This new smart crap. I sound like a Luddite. Sound like an old geezer. But I am. Anyway. The problem with this new system, this is called Matter. I didn't mention that earlier. So Matter is, it utilizes Ethernet connections. It utilizes the existing Wi-Fi connections. And it really goes in and gives us one standard by which to work with. Of course, no one's going to adopt it, but I don't know. Maybe they will if everybody's in on this. But if they're all working on adopting this and they have a standard and it's possible to make sure nothing is accessible outside your home network. But the biggest problem is all of these devices want to check home for updates, which is unnecessary if they don't have any connection to the internet. So it's the same thing with cars. Your car does not need to connect home for software updates. Just keep it off the internet where people can't get to it. Of course, this was a wonderful little cartoon situation. There were 14 competing standards. 14 ridiculous. We need to develop one universal standard that everyone uses. Yeah, soon situation. There are 5 competing standards, and that's probably what's going to happen with this as well. They're trying to do it. They're trying to make it so everything communicates just on the local network, only going outside of the local network for updates and for remote connectivity functions, but they're trying to get everything else to work internally. Now, there are, of course, some platforms that you can already do this with as long as they're, like Zigbee is one of them. If you have a Zigbee compliant device, they can have different manufacturers that all work through that. But who would want to use the open source applications? No, we need a proprietary one. Nah, I'll stick with the open source one. Thank you. And there's HomeKit, I think, is the other one. So Zigbee and HomeKit are 2. All right, and on to our feature story, data collection everywhere. So what this is going on here is in a lot of the new chips that are coming out, they are putting in the sensors and the capability to collect and transmit data all over the place. So several cars apparently have already been feeding data back to the home chip so that that data can be used for AI. So even if it's a human driver, the data is being collected and harvesting, and nobody's really aware of all this. And they're like, oh, this is such a good thing. The problem is they say, well, we have these AI devices, but we basically, as they say here, it's like selling an empty brain. It's capable of learning, but we don't have any data. So what they're doing is they're trying to implement chips in everything in order to collect all of the data by which to feed the AI and give it an already functioning brain framework before they give it to you. And the list of companies here, like Lenovo was in these. Like, I'm trying to think, what in the world's Lenovo doing with chips? Like, well, that makes me concerned about buying Lenovo computers, if I'm honest. And they weren't the only computer company, but so Mobileye collected information about existing sensors and cameras on various models of cars. Have driven millions of miles in 40 countries. Information gleans select data points from images, which is sent back to Mobileye at low bandwidth of 10 kilobit per car per kilometer. The harvested information helps car makers customize autonomous vehicles to unique road conditions found around the world. That's exciting. NVIDIA is creating data sets by simulating real-world situations in the the metaverse. Yeah, that's kind of happened. We had our first metaverse groping last week. Ravi Zacharias used to say, improved technology gives us improved means to reach our deteriorating ends. But back to NVIDIA. Based on camera views and lighting to train robots to navigate, companies created data sets on realistic scenes through simulated cameras for autonomous driving. Gold star if you guess the simulations run best on NVIDIA. Hey, go figure. There's just a lot of these companies, and it's like, it makes you wonder, okay, is there a way to opt out of this? I mean, how do I know I'm transmitting data back to the company even when I don't want to? And what is the full amount of data? So I think a whole lot more questions need asked about this technology before we're all excited about doing this and pushing, oh my God, it's so amazing. But, you know, that's that. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have affiliates. Today we are highlighting Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is who I use for my personal cell phone. I do have two. I have a super expensive phone, which cost me the same amount in 1 month as Mint Mobile cost me in an entire year. And the Mint Mobile one works just as good, just as fine. And, you know, that happens to be that. So, you can head on over to Mint Mobile site, use my affiliate link, tlm.li/mm. That will help the channel out. Doesn't cost you anything extra. And you can use, many cases, you can use your existing phone or you can buy a new phone. Apparently, you can now lease phones with them. That's new. I don't ever recommend that. Buy yourself a phone that's cheap that will work with the SIM cards and go get yourself a SIM card to slip in there. I use the 4 gigabyte plan, $15 a month. I end up paying for it a year. It's like $160-ish a year, I think, something like that. Or you can go up to the unlimited, which is 35 gigabytes of data. So they also have 4, 10, 15, and unlimited data. So with that, you can help support the channel over there. Now, heading on over into security news, there was apparently another T-Mobile breach. And this one here, there was a previous one which had a lot more data. This one, I think, was a little bit more severe, but was a lot lower in scope. Basically, people had pulled off a large-scale SIM swapping scam. And so that was kind of problematic. This one, though, was fairly low level, and they dealt with it pretty quickly. Everybody was notified pretty quickly, and a very small amount of customers were involved in this one, as opposed to the other one, which happened earlier this year, which was like millions of people. So they did have that breach. It was a SIM swap breach plus a breach of information available inside of the customer service management. So could be credit card numbers, emails, contact information, things like that. And finally, we had Lastpass. There was some controversy over it. Some people suggested Lastpass was breached. Some people say Lastpass, somebody just attempted to breach them. And according to what Lastpass says is that first, some people may have tried doing cred stuffing into Lastpass accounts, and then they come back and say, well, no, it was just an error and things were sent out in error. I think there might have actually been a little bit of a breach of some form, and they're just trying to be super tight-lipped about it. Here's the problem with LastPass and other password managers like this. This is one service on somebody else's cloud computer that if somebody does get into it, they literally have everything that you have. Don't use this crap. I'm even leery about using Bitwarden, which is the cloud source of the open source one, right? This is an open source technology. It is absolutely better to use Bitwarden than any of the other ones because you have a better ability to knowing what it's doing. You can self-host it if you want to. But the fact of the matter is, anytime your password lists are in a giant cloud server, there is reason to be concerned. This is why I use KeePass XC. I don't use Bitwarden. Even though it would be the best if you absolutely have to have something online, use Bitwarden. But otherwise, use KeePass because it is not going to be as susceptible to being breached because you don't have your password file everywhere online. So it's going to be curious to see what happens. What concerns me about this is, oh, it must have been cred stuff. Oh, it was just an error in our system. More details wanted, please. I think something may have happened here, and they're doing their best job to covering it up. But we'll happen to see what happens when the final data reports show up. It'll probably come out months and months from now. But this is interesting. So they say nothing has been compromised, but there's questions about it. And it came from some Twitter threads. LastPass Password Manager isn't secure at the moment. There's a certain rush to hijack all data. It was basically a tweet. Somebody had received a message from LastPass about a login attempt and things like it was more than just that. So very interesting. Be interesting to see what happens with this. Well, you can support the channel over on Subscribestar, subscribestar.com/switched-to-Linux. Join us over there to help support the channel. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched-to-Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.